This conference will now be recorded.
So the topic of discussion for today is antifungal agents. These fungal infections which are caused, they are mainly caused by the fungal kingdom microorganisms, and this fungal kingdom microorganisms include yeast, molds, rust, etc. Now, yeast, you know, is a very common fungus that we even in fact use when we are making bread or we are baking anything. We are using yeast in it. Now, what type of infections do these fungal kingdom microorganisms cause? You can see on the screen the different types of fungal pathogens which can cause infections, and these infections caused by these fungal agents or fungal pathogens are mainly or most of the time they are superficial infections, as in they are infecting the skin and the mucosal membrane. Now, when they are infecting the person, they are usually targeting those who are having um, immunocompromised state, or they are on drugs where there is where there is action of a immunosuppressant action, or patients who are suffering from AIDS or who are undergoing chemotherapy, because in these cases there is immunocompromised situation or they are given immunosuppressant agents. So in all these type of patients, patient who has undergone an organ transplant, all of them are prone to suffer from these type of fungal infections. Now, the fungal cell is also a eukaryotic cell like the human cell, and it is basically a parasite. It feeds on the human being on whom it has attacked, or in whom it has caused the disease. Now, in spite of the fact that both have eukaryotic cells, that is, the human also has a eukaryotic cell and the fungal cell is also a eukaryotic cell, there is a slight difference that is there between the fungal cell as well as the human cell, and that is exactly what is used or what is targeted or exploited. The fact is exploited for to design antifungal agents. Now, there are different types of fungal pathogens that can cause different types of infections in us. There is Candida albicans, which is a type of yeast, and usually it will cause an infection in the vaginal area or in the gastrointestinal tract or in the oropharynx. Then there are then Candida albicans also breeds, or the fungal infection is also caused on skin, especially near the nails. Okay, then dermatophytes are another type of fungi which cause skin, nail, and hair infection. In fact, the dandruff also, which is a very common problem that many of us suffer from, it is also actually a fungal infection. So when the treatment is going on for dandruff, if you see the shampoo, there is a drug which is called as ketoconazole, which is an antifungal agent, and that shampoo contains ketoconazole. So when there is excessive dandruff, you need to undergo treatment for it. Otherwise, drying of the scalp and seeing dandruff, especially in the winter seasons, is a very common phenomenon in all of us. So these dermatophytes, they are usually causing what are called as tinea infections. So tinea pedis, tinea manum, tinea capitis are some of the very common dermatophyte infections that occur. Now, if you see the people who are continuously and regularly exposed to water, okay, like the maids who work in our house, or sometimes even our mothers or sisters who are continuously working in water because they are washing vessels, they are washing vegetables, there is something or the other that they are associated with. Their hands and legs are always in water. So in this situation, what happens is the skin starts losing its moisture. you can do an experiment. If you stay in water for a very long time, there are wrinkles which get formed on the skin. Okay, so similarly for these people also, when they are continuously in water, when they are working in water for a very long time, day in and day out, their skin starts becoming dry. Then initially wrinkles will be formed, but later the skin starts becoming dry, and it becomes a nice ground for flourishing of the fungal infection causing microorganisms. So many a times these maids and all, if you see between their toes or between their hands, they will often suffer from tinea pedis or tinea capitis, these different types of tenial infections or dermatophyte infections. Dermato, the name itself tells you that it is on the dermis, or it is related to the skin of the human being. So these are very common infections, and most of the times the infections which are caused by fungi, they will be treated with ointments. Very rarely you would need to take something in vivo, as in you will need to take a tablet or an injection. Very rarely will such a thing happen. Most of the times they are skin or superficial infections which can be easily treated with creams and ointments. Another common phenomenon that you see, especially in this season, the summer season, near the waist, you will see many people will, especially those who sweat a lot, okay, and who do not maintain good personal hygiene, these people are prone to such type of infections. First, initially there will be a redness which will be formed at the waist region or at the pelvic region or in the armpits. Okay, these are places where the sweating happens more, and if you are not wearing cotton clothes, if you are continuously wearing silk or polyester, then such artificial materials do not absorb the sweat, unlike cotton. Okay, so if you are continuously wearing such clothes, or if you're not maintaining personal hygiene, in these cases you will see that near the pelvic region or near the waist, near the armpits, there will be first redness, there will be itching, and slowly then the fungal infection will start, and it will start spreading on the skin. Okay, so if you want to avoid a fungal infection, the best thing is to maintain good personal hygiene, and also have a strong immune system. Okay, so with these two, you can easily combat fungal infections. The occurrence of death because of a fungal infection is very rare. Now, what do these microorganisms do, or how do they survive on the skin? They are surviving on keratin. Okay, you know, in the mammalian skin, there is a protein which is called as keratin, or it is one of the constituents of our skin. And these tenial infections, or these dermatophytes, or in general fungal pathogens, all of them suffer. All of them breed, or they are dependent on this keratin, a protein which is there in our skins. Okay, so this is how a yeast looks like, very much resembling the bacteria. You can see the yeast, you can also see the black dots, that is Candida albicans, that is also a type of fungal pathogen. Yes, so like I told you that different types of fungal infections are there. Most of them are superficial. So there is superficial dandruff, I gave you an example. Then cutaneous, which is affecting the epidermal layers. Okay, ringworm, the one which happens on the waist. The jock itch, which happens at the pelvic region. Okay, or at the V shape where our legs join. Then sometimes they start going deeper. That means they can become a systemic fungal infection, or they can become a subdermal, they can attack the subdermal tissue and become a subdermal infection, and in that case it becomes a chronic infection which could need surgical intervention. Okay, so these are some of the different types of fungal infections that can occur. So this is how a fungal wall looks, the cell wall of the fungi. So if you see in detail, over here, or even in this picture, you see that it has a polypeptide layer, and here the pink color dots that you can see, these pink color dots are nothing but the ergosterol that is present, that is the steroid that is included inside the fungal cell wall. Okay, then there are different types of enzymes also, and there are polysaccharides also, which come together to form this strong fungal cell wall. Now if you compare the cell wall of a fungi to the human cell wall, what you see is the difference. Okay, what is different? Cell structure is same, both are eukaryotic. DNA, for the fungal cell it is a diploid, for the for the fungal cell it is haploid, and for the human beings it is diploid. Okay, cell wall, we do not have a cell wall. Okay, whereas the fungal cell wall is present, and this fungal cell wall is made up of chitin, glucans, and mannose. Okay, so this is what is the chitin. You can see the labeling over here of chitin. Then this all green color will contain the manoproteins. This purple color over here is the chitin. Okay, and you also see glucan. This is the enzyme which incorporates the glucan in the cell wall structure. Now, the major difference that is there between a fungal cell wall and a human cell wall or animal cell wall is this. Okay, here in the structure you see the pink color ones are ergosterols. Okay, the steroid or the sterol present in the fungal cell wall is ergosterol, whereas in the case of humans it is cholesterol. This is the major difference. Okay, then presence of enzymes. Two enzymes are there, cytosine deaminase and squalene epoxidase. Both these enzymes will be present in the fungal cell, but they will not be present in the animal cell. Okay, so you can use them. I suggest you take down this chart quickly, the difference between the mammalian cell. Don't write over here animal cell, write mammalian cell and fungal cell. Quickly take down the chart. Okay, now if you see the structural part, okay, the chemical structure, you will see over here how the cell wall for a mammal looks, where the cholesterol is embedded between the two lipid bilayer membranes. Okay, and in the case of the cell wall for fungi, you can see over here ergosterol is embedded over here. Okay, so you can clearly see the structural differences that are there between the fungal cell wall and the mammalian cell wall. Now, if you decide to classify antifungal agents, then based on their mechanism of action, they are classified in the following way. One is the DNA or RNA synthesis inhibitors or pyrimidine analogs, which will not allow the DNA RNA synthesis in the fungal cell to happen. Then there are Pauline antibiotics. They are antibiotics which are used for antifungal, which are used as antifungal agents. Then there is an azole group of compounds, and these azole group of compounds are used as antifungal agents. Okay, so you can classify antifungal agents as follows: Pauline antibiotics, example nystatin and amphotericin B; azoles, ketoconazole, fluconazole; allylamines, terbinafine and tolnaftate; antifungal antibiotics, griseofulvin; fluorinated pyrimidines, flucytosine; fatty acids, example zinc propionate; furan derivatives, and some miscellaneous agents like salicylic acid. This is the classification for antifungal agents. So the biggest breakthrough for designing antifungal agents was we could find out the difference between these two cell walls, and that became a target for designing and making antifungal agents so that they can target the cell wall directly, and once the cell wall is weakened of the microorganism, automatically the cell contents will be leaked out and there will be death of the microorganism. Now that would be one way in which you could treat antifungal agents. Other than this, if you again see the classification, there are agents which are inhibiting DNA RNA synthesis also. So you could use such agents also for the treatment of fungal infections that a person is suffering from. So we'll see the most commonly used class of antifungal agents, and the most commonly used class of antifungal agents, especially in dermatophytal infections or in tinea infection. These tinea infections or the dermatophytus infections are very common. That is why the most commonly used class of antifungal agents has become the azoles. So these azoles specifically are used in the treatment of tinea infections, Candida albicans infections, trichophytons, microspora infections, epidermophyton infections. And most of these infections are all superficial infections which are caused on the skin or which are affecting the mucous membrane. This slide also shows a summary of the entire mechanism of action of the antifungal agents. Okay, for example, over here you see azoles and allylamines. They inhibit the synthesis of ergosterol, and if you go back to the slide which we saw where there is cell wall formation, the pink color dots that you saw, if you remember, that was ergosterol, and that ergosterol is essential part of the cell wall for fungi. Okay, so if you have drugs like azoles and allylamines, you can have ergosterol synthesis to be inhibited so that you can have antifungal action. Now, based on the dose of the azole that you are using, like if you are using a very low concentration of azole, you will have a fungistatic action. Similarly to bacteriostatic action. If you have a higher concentration of the fungal antifungal agent used, then you will have a fungicidal action, similar to bactericidal. Okay, you are aware of the meaning of the word cidal and static. Static will just prevent or stop the growth, but cidal will actually kill the microorganism, and therefore you will be able to recover from the infection more easily. Now, along with preventing the ergosterol synthesis to happen, the azoles also give fungicidal activity by causing loss of the essential nutrients that are present in the cell. Okay. Now, if once again we'll go back to the cell wall of the fungi, and you see over here that these pink dots are ergosterol. Now, if the ergosterol synthesis will not happen, there are going to be holes in this polypeptide layer. Okay, polypeptide bilayer. Now, if there are holes in this polypeptide bilayer, ergosterol is not going to get incorporated over here. Then, because of these holes, whatever constituents are there, especially the nutrition that the cell requires, or the fungi requires, like potassium and amino acids, they will get leaked out from the cell, and this will have a fungicidal effect on the fungal cell. You can also have a fungistatic effect, wherein the enzymes which are responsible for doing different types of metabolic activities, these enzymes will be inhibited from action. Okay, so this fungistatic action from azoles is obtained by inhibiting the activity of the enzymes, metabolic activity of the enzymes. Fungicidal action of the azoles can be obtained, and what it will do is it will cause the loss of essential cellular constituents like potassium and amino acids, and this is happening because ergosterol synthesis also is being inhibited. To get a fungistatic action, lower concentration of the drugs are used. For if you use a higher concentration of the drug, you will have fungicidal action. Okay, now if we'll see how the ergosterol synthesis happens. This is the flow chart showing that ergosterol synthesis is happening, and then it is being incorporated in the lipid bilayer membrane. So here you have acetyl-CoA. If you recollect the steroids chapter which we studied in medicinal chemistry 2 last semester, we obtained cholesterol also from acetyl-CoA. Okay, so this acetyl-CoA is going to give you squalene. Squalene is going to get converted to squalene 2,3 oxide. Now, the conversion of squalene to squalene 2,3 oxide requires squalene monooxygenase enzyme. Further, squalene 2,3 oxide is going to get converted to lanosterol, and then this lanosterol is going to undergo demethylation, and it is going to give ergosterol. This ergosterol formed is going to get incorporated in the lipid bilayer membrane. Okay, the conversion of lanosterol to ergosterol requires lanosterol 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. Now, again, if you properly see this flowchart on your screen, you will see that there are two types of drugs which can act on this cycle. Okay, one are what are called as the allylamine class of antifungal agents. The other are the azoles, which we are presently studying. Okay, and they are very specific in their action. How are azoles preventing ergosterol synthesis or biosynthesis of ergosterol in the fungal cell? Is they are having inhibitory action on the lanosterol 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. So when azoles are used in higher concentration, they will give you fungicidal action by stopping the conversion of lanosterol to ergosterol by binding with the lanosterol 14 alpha demethylase enzyme. Okay, so this is the mechanism of action of the azole class of antifungal agents. They are binding to the lanosterol 14 alpha demethylase enzyme, preventing the conversion of lanosterol to ergosterol. because of which what is going to happen is there is going to be loss of the essential cellular constituents like potassium and amino acids. Okay, now same drug used in lower concentration is also going to is partially going to bind to lanosterol dimethyl 14 alpha demethylase enzyme, and it is going to inhibit that membrane bound enzyme activity, thus giving you fungi static action. This is the structural representation of conversion of squalene to ergosterol. It would definitely be beneficial to you if you also are able to reproduce this in the exam, where squalene is getting converted to squalene epoxidase in the presence of squalene epoxide in the presence of squalene epoxidase enzyme. Further, it is getting converted to lanosterol, then it is forming ergosterol through a intermediate. Okay, and these enzymes which we have seen in the previous flowchart also are visible over here. So azoles inhibit the synthesis of ergosterol by blocking demethylation of lanosterol to ergosterol. Okay, and they also inhibit cytochrome P450 activity. Now, if you come, what we saw till now is the pharmacological part of the azole type of antifungal agents. It was their mechanism of action, and now we move on to the chemistry of the azoles. So these azoles are further classified into two types depending on the type of azole ring that they have. Okay, for example, there could be one set of compounds which could have the imidazole ring. Okay, and the other class could be which has a 1 to 4 triazole ring. Now they are two different classes, but the common factor between both of them is having an azole ring in both. Okay, now these imidazoles have examples like ketoconazole, mebendazole, clotrimazole, miconazole, and thiabendazole, whereas 1 to 4 triazole ring compounds are itraconazole and fluconazole. They are the triazoles are like a advanced version or a better version of azoles when the fungal infection is deeper or it is not responding to imidazole type of antifungal agents. It would be only then that you would move on to 1 to 4 triazole compounds to give antifungal activity. So this is one example of azole ring containing antifungal agents. This is an imidazole derivative. This is the imidazoline ring. This is the imidazoline ring, and this imidazole derivative is clotrimazole. Clotrimazole has versatile activity. It is along with being used for dermatophyte infection. You can also use it for Candida albicans type of infections also. So when there is cutaneous candidiasis or when there is vaginal candidiasis, clotrimazole is used. You will often find clotrimazole ointments or creams available for the treatment of vaginal candidiasis. Similarly, it is also used in the treatment of tinea pedis infection, the infection that I told you, which is often seen in people who are continuously in water. So when such type of people suffer from tinea pedis infection, clotrimazole ointments or creams are prescribed so that they can be treated with for the infections. This is another example. Again, this also has an imidazole ring, and the example's name is miconazole. It is also used in vaginal type of fungal infections like what I told you previously, vaginal candidiasis, available as creams, as lotions, also as powder. It is also available as injection if the if the infection goes in vivo, or if there is a fungal infection which is not happening superficially but has moved inside the body. Okay, so these are the two examples of imidazole type of fungal drugs or antifungal agents. We'll quickly note down 2-3 points of SAR for miconazole, clotrimazole, or in general imidazole derivatives. So if you decide to enumerate the SAR characteristics for these imidazole type of derivatives as to be used as antifungal agents, the main requirement for this is the presence of imidazole ring. Okay, so the imidazole ring is a weakly basic ring, and its presence is very essential to have this antifungal activity. The next point that we could enumerate is azoles in general, and especially in imidazoles, also in some cases of 1,2,4 triazole compounds, we will see that whenever you increase the number of aromatic rings attached to the imidazole ring, here you see, for example, this is an carbon atom. To this carbon atom, there is one imidazole ring attached. There are two benzene rings, and there is a chlorobenzene ring attached. Okay, so if you keep on increasing the benzene ring, like in the starting, suppose it was CH2, and there was a imidazole ring and there was a benzene ring. Okay, so there was only one aromatic ring. The other two valencies of carbon were satisfied by hydrogen. So the activity of that compound would be less. But if you replace one more hydrogen with a benzene ring, okay, then the activity improvises, the antifungal activity improvises. Now you add a third benzene ring. Okay, that means the valency of carbon is satisfied with 3 benzene rings and 1 imidazole ring. Now when you have such a compound, the activity has even further improvised. You add to this one benzene ring a halogen atom, like for example here in clotrimazole, chloride has been added at the ortho position of this benzene ring. So once you add this chloride atom or a halogen atom to any one of these benzene rings, the spectrum of activity or the efficacy of the drug is further going to increase. Okay, so when you write down the SAR points for imidazole derivatives, you say that the weakly basic imidazole ring is very essential for activity. The potency of the azole derivatives increases with the number of increase in aromatic rings, and if there is a substitution on each one of these benzene rings, or at least on one of these benzene rings with a halogen atom, then further efficacy and pharmacological activity of the imidazole derivatives increases. So these are some of the SAR points for imidazole derivatives. Now, why is this particular imidazole ring, or in the case of clotrimazole and fluconazole, that is the 1,2,4 triazole rings, why are these rings important? Why imidazole ring? Why the triazole ring, 1,2,4 triazole ring? Now, in the case of imidazole ring, you see that there are two nitrogen atoms. This is position 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and the third nitrogen, or the N3, which is there in this imidazoline ring, okay, this is going to bind to the heme ion in the body, and it is going to decrease the supply of oxygen to the microorganism. Okay, what is the microorganism flourishing on? It is flourishing on our flesh and blood. Okay, it is flourishing on the keratin, which is present in our skin. So it is obviously taking in other different types of substances also from us. So if you do not supply certain intermediates, or you do not supply certain substances to it, the fungal agent will not flourish, or it will not be able to grow. So the N3 in the imidazoline ring and the N4 in the triazole ring bind to the heme ion, and they decrease the oxygen activation. Okay, so this is about the SAR of clotrimazole, meconazole, or in general imidazole derivatives. Now when you come to the example of 1,2,4-triazole, you see over here fluconazole as is one example, and the two SAR points which stood true for imidazoline derivatives or imidazole derivatives of antifungal agents, or azole antifungal agents, they hold right over here also. So what are these 2 points? One, there we said you need the imidazole ring. Here we say you need the 1,2,4 triazole ring system. So this is the 1,2,4 triazole ring system which is present. Okay, then we said over there that if you increase or you add a benzene ring or an aromatic benzene ring to the drug, the efficacy of the drug keeps on increasing. So here we have added a aromatic ring system. To this aromatic ring system, if you could add halogen atoms, then the efficacy or the spectrum of activity of the drugs increases even further. So here you have not added not one, but in fact two halogen atoms. Which are they? Fluorine atoms, one at the ortho position, one at the para position of the aromatic ring system. So this drug or the 1,2,4 triazoles qualify to be good antifungal agents because they fulfill all the criteria for SAR activity. One is the presence of 1,2,4 triazole ring system. Second, in fact, it has two. If you see the structure of fluconazole, there are two 1,2,4 triazole ring systems. Then the presence of a benzene ring or an aromatic ring system, that is also present. The attachment of halogen atoms to this benzene ring or to this aromatic ring system. Here there are two fluorines attached, which are two halogen atoms attached at the ortho and para position, and they are giving you good antifungal activity. Okay, so this is the SAR of antifungal azole agents or azole antifungal agents. From here we move on to the next class of antifungal agents, and that is allyl amines. Okay, we once again come back to the basics of formation from squalene, and this formation of ergosterol from squalene involves conversion of squalene to squalene epoxidase, and this then converts ergosterol. And for this conversion you require two things: the cytochrome P450 and the lanosterol enzyme. We have already seen how azoles are acting and preventing the conversion of lanosterol to ergosterol. Here, in the case of allylamines, we see that they are acting on the squalene epoxidase enzyme. The function of squalene epoxidase enzyme is to convert squalene to squalene epoxide. Conversion of squalene to squalene epoxide. So if you use allylamines for the treatment of fungal infections, then you are inhibiting the conversion of squalene to squalene epoxidase, and you are having antifungal activity in the process. Now you could use allylamines and azoles together in the treatment of any fungal infection, depending upon the severity of the fungal infection, as well as you have to keep in mind um, the place or how serious is the fungal infection. So you can use allylamines and azoles. By using both the drugs, you are also ensuring that resistance is not developed. Even when you are using antibiotics, antibiotics usually are used in combination with each other to get a synergistic effect, like how we use penicillin and clavulanic acid. So to get a synergistic action, you can use antibiotics together. Similarly, you can use antifungal agents also together. Along with providing antifungal actions, it is also ensuring that you do not develop resistance to the classes of antifungal agents. Now, what could happen is you could require a very high dose of allylamines for the treatment of antifungal infections, or you could require a very high dose of azole antifungal agents. So instead of using one drug at a very high concentration, where you have to take the drug every 3 hours, or you are or the size of the tablet is becoming very high, so in these cases you can use these two classes of agents, azoles and allylamines together, to get a synergistic effect to prevent the formation of resistance as well. Okay, so these are examples of allylamine antifungal agents, terbinafine and tolnaftate. Terbinafine is mainly used in ringworm infections or tinea infections, tinea cruris infections, tinea pedis infections, tinea corpus infections. For all these type of infections, tinea infections, you can use the drug terbinafine. Tolnaftate is more for dermatophyte type of infections which are usually superficial, and you will see that tolnaftate is usually available as mm, lotions, or it is available as a cream, so that superficially you can treat skin infections. Okay, if you see the examples of azoles, say for example, here you have the example of clotrimazole. Clotrimazole also has a broad spectrum of activity, and along with being used as antifungal agents for all the different types of fungal infections, it is very particular in the use of candidiasis. Fluconazole also has a very broad spectrum of activity. Any internal antifungal agent, if it has to be used, then it could be fluconazole. If the infection, rather the antifungal infection, has passed on to the oropharyngeal region or into the esophageal region, or sometimes even into the brain, where there could be cryptococcal meningitis, especially in AIDS patients. AIDS patients, you know, they are immunocompromised. The name itself tells you AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency. So it is an acquired immunodeficiency. So they are more prone to fungal infections. So in that case, you can use fluconazole, which is an azole type of antifungal agent. You can quickly take down the synthesis of tolnaftate, which is an allylamine antifungal agent. Which is synthesized by the reaction between 2-naphthol or beta-naphthol and thiophosgene in the presence of N-methyl 3-toluidine. You get the end product as tolnaftate. Are you done with the synthesis? Okay, so this class are called as antifungal antibiotics. The example for this antifungal antibiotics is griseofulvin. It is obtained again, like how all our antibiotics were obtained from some or the other microorganism as a metabolite. Griseofulvin is also obtained from Penicillium griseofulvum. Okay, simultaneously you can note down the structure also of griseofulvin, and it is a very commonly used antifungal agent, especially in skin infections like ringworm infection. Now, how does this griseofulvin act? Okay, the mechanism of action of griseofulvin or of these antifungal antibiotics is very simple. If you recollect, when the multiplication is going on of mammalian cells or eukaryotic cells in general, we will stick to eukaryotic cells. When the multiplication or cell division of eukaryotic cells is going on, in that process there is one step which comes, is the formation of microtubules. Okay, spindles are formed, microtubules are formed, and the next step, it is the penultimate step, or it is a step even before the penultimate step, where the DNA matter of the mother has to get divided between the two daughter cells when the cell division is happening. So there is spindle formation, microtubules are formed, and the DNA matter is equally divided between the two daughter cells, and the mother cell breaks down or gets divided or cut to form two daughter cells. Okay, now these two daughter cells are then further going to multiply. They are going to survive as fungal cells, and they will also undergo cell division, and there also there will be microtubules formation, spindle formation, and this process is what is called as mitosis. Okay, because there is no fusion of a male and female gamete, male and female gamete to form an embryo. Here the mother cell is dividing itself to form two daughter cells, so it is a mitotic division of the fungal cells. Now what griseofulvin, which is an antifungal antibiotic, does is it inhibits this mitotic reaction. It binds to the spindles, it binds to the tubulins, and it interferes with the microtubules. Now, if it binds to the microtubules, if it binds to the tubulins, if it inhibits mitosis, there will be no DNA replication. Okay, what happens in the mitotic cell division is the mother cell is dividing, it is breaking into two, and two daughter cells are formed. And when these two daughter cells are formed, the DNA information from the mother is equally divided between the two daughter cells. Both of them have the same DNA content or the same DNA information. Okay, now if you do not allow microtubule formation to happen, spindle formation to happen, you are inhibiting the process of mitosis, then you are inhibiting DNA replication. And if you inhibit DNA replication, you are inhibiting the replication or the cell division itself of the fungal cells. So griseofulvin, which is an antifungal antibiotic, is interfering with the DNA replication action by binding to the tubulin, binding to the microtubules, and inhibiting the process of DNA replication. Okay, now the beauty of this particular drug is it is a selective antifungal antibiotic. Now this process of mitosis is happening in mammalian cells also, but griseofulvin is having selective activity. Unlike what we see in anti-cancer agents, when you are using an anti-cancer agent, it is killing the cancer cell also, it is killing the human cell or the mammalian cell also. So it has rampant activity. It does not differentiate between mammalian cells and the cancerous cells. But here, this is an advantage of griseofulvin, or the substance which is obtained from Penicillium griseofulvum. The advantage is that it is able to differentiate between mammalian cell and differentiate between a fungal cell, and because of that, it is having selective action, or the mammalian cells are sensitive to griseofulvin. So it is so the uses of griseofulvin are that it is recommended even for systemic infections, such a high-end drug, antifungal agent, okay, which is affecting DNA replication, definitely is used for systemic infections caused by dermatophytes. Dermatophytes, it is called as dermatophytosis. It is also used in reoccurring ringworm infections, especially near the waist, nails, feet, even in the hair. Okay, so this is about antifungal antibiotics. There are a few more examples left, like there is Pauline antibiotics which is left. So we will continue this in the next class, the other different types of antifungal agents.